Hi everyone, I'm Hallie Blakesley and I will hopefully be telling you about The Picture of Dorian Gray. The Picture of Dorian Gray was written by Oscar Wilde. As we learned earlier in the course, Wilde was a 19th century Irish writer and playwright. He was born on the 16th of October, 1854, and died on November 30, 1900, at the age of 46 in Paris, France. He had one older brother named William Willie Wilde. He married Constance Lloyd and with her had two sons, Cyril and Vivian. But the marriage was generally unhappy, mostly because Wilde was gay. Aside from his one novel, he also wrote many plays, short stories, and poetry in his lifetime. Perhaps his most famous play was The Importance of Being Earnest. The Picture of Dorian Gray was his only novel. As a writer, he was one of the pioneers for the aestheticism movement in art, which means that he valued beauty over meaning in his work. He was also influenced early on by his parents, William and Jane Wilde, who were both intellectuals and made sure he got a thorough education. The Picture of Dorian Gray centers on, you guessed it, Dorian Gray, a young 19th century aristocrat. He was so beautiful that everyone died. Not really, but he was beautiful. So beautiful that his friend Basil Hallward painted a picture of him. He was an artist. It was kind of his thing. When Dorian saw the painting, he was so overcome with his own beauty that he made a wish that the painting would age in his place, which came true for some reason. Maybe a genie heard him, I don't know. But it also changed to reflect his sins. When Dorian realized the painting was changing, he hid it somewhere no one would ever see it. The most useless room in the house. The schoolroom. So Dorian went on to live the 19th century equivalent of a rock star lifestyle, while the painting took care of all that aging nonsense for him. The novel takes place in 19th century London, which is quick to remind the reader. Characters will occasionally comment on British politics and relations with other countries. Much of the plot revolves around Victorian upper-class culture, with characters going to the opera and having dinner parties instead of having real problems. Beauty is a major theme of the book. Dorian's beauty is mentioned in almost every chapter, and it's the source of his vanity and his biggest flaw. This may seem odd considering Wilde's fondness for beauty, but The Picture of Dorian Gray is a story about beauty being abused. The problem is not Dorian's beauty, but how he responds to it. The book was controversial when it was published for its homoerotic undertones. Yeah. In a time when homosexuality was illegal, Wilde was heavily persecuted and eventually incarcerated for his sexuality. The novel actually had to be toned down from its original manuscript for these reasons. The novel was originally published in Lippincott's Monthly Magazine. In Culture and Corruption, Peterian Self-Development versus Gothic Degeneration in Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray, Niels Clausen explains that there has been a debate about what genre to place the novel in. Early critics have judged the novel based on whether they see it as an imitation of French decadence or a moral fable. The subject matter is still debated by literary critics today. Clausen argues that the novel is somewhere between two opposing genres, self-development and Gothic degeneration. The novel is about self-development because it is about a young, impressionable man shaping his views and deciding who he is. On the other hand, it is also about degeneration because his moral and mental state only get worse as the story goes on. Many critics seem to agree that the book incorporates many elements of Gothic literature. Personally, I place the novel as a philosophical drama with elements of horror. The article goes on to explain the importance of the novel's homoerotic undertones in interpreting the novel's meaning. Dorian Gray lives a double life due to hiding his sins. This is basically how homosexual men had to live in the period. In Oscar Wilde, The Picture of Dorian Gray, and The Undeath of the Author, Elana Gomel talks about the novel with regards to the concept of death of the author. The article talks about the issue of authorship with an anecdote about a medium writing what she claimed were thoughts from Oscar Wilde from beyond the grave. The article discusses the importance of the author's identity when interpreting their work, whether it is important to understand the author's intention to interpret their work. The other side to this argument is that it doesn't matter what the author's intent was, all that matters is what they put forward in the text. I don't know about you, but personally I am of the latter opinion. When you read a story, the experience of the story belongs to you alone. It is up to you to decide what that means based on your experience. So really, the reader's identity is more important than the writer's. In conclusion, The Picture of Dorian Gray is a good book and you should all read it.